I'd like to call the meeting of the Development Review Board to order, July 7, 2020. Okay, Dan.
Sure. I'm just going to stand up because it's easier for me to project, and I know folks are spread around the whole room. So, first of all, thank you all for coming. Thanks for everybody for wearing masks, and thanks for putting up with the special conditions that we have to have in order to hold this meeting. So we appreciate everybody and their patience. We will try to speak up if we ask you to speak up if you folks are going to be addressing the board. And if you can't hear, raise your hand and we'll make folks repeat. But we'll do our best to try to get this meeting so everybody can hear and participate. The first item on our agenda are the minutes from our last meeting, which was held exactly 6 months ago. It's been a long time since we got together because of the pandemic, but I would need a motion to approve those. Charlie?
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. Any discussion on the motions? All in favor?
Okay, next item. We do ask everyone who presents to the board this evening to testify or speak under oath. Normally we'd have you sign in, but because of the pandemic, we're not going to have people sharing pens or pencils. So I'm just going to read the oath, and expect that all of you that do speak will abide by it. And the oath says, I solemnly swear or affirm under the pains and penalty of perjury that the statements I make, testimony I give, and other evidence I submit to the Development Review Board at the board's public hearing held on this date shall be true and correct to the best of my knowledge and belief. So we're asking everybody to testify under oath this evening. The next item on the agenda is a disclosure of any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest on behalf of any of the board members. Are there any this evening? None? Okay. Thank you. The first item on our agenda, or the first hearing on our agenda, is Bennington Road LLC at 108 Harwood Hill Road. This applicant is seeking approval for the demolition of 3 structures on that property. The reason that they have to come to the DRB for the demolition approval is they are on the Historic Sites and Structures Survey due to their age. I will remark for the board's edification that the Historic Preservation Commission has recommended approval of the demolition request. So, and that was in your packet. So that is, they have already met with the Historic Preservation Commission, and we'll let the applicant introduce themselves. You guys speak up. Got a big room, and take it away.
Thank you. My name is Jeffrey Goldstone. I'm an architect at Goldstone Architecture. I'm here with Jason Dolmich, MSA Engineering and Design. We represent Bennington Road LLC, and I apologize. I was about to warn everybody that that was going to happen. It seems as if the projector runs for about a minute and a half and then cuts out. So we'll keep restarting it. If there are questions, I can pull up some photographs of these 3 buildings. Very quickly, these 3 buildings are a barn, a house, and a small 1-car garage. All 3 of them are facing Harwood Hill on the west side of Route 7A. I don't really want to go into the details of these unless there are questions that you'd like to answer. The barn, however, is sometimes what was originally known or was known to the survey as the William H. Morse Building, and it was constructed in somewhere here in 1930. The house was known as the William H. Morse House, built about 10 years prior to the barn, and it was approximately 1920. And the garage was not listed as a historic building and was built, I don't know when, sometime around 1960. All 3 buildings are dilapidated, or the garage at least is 3. They've been abandoned and not used for a couple decades at least. And when I have photographs to show you, if you'd like to see them, they are what we would consider beyond reasonable repair. We believe the cost of retrofitting or rebuilding these buildings at this point well exceeds the value of the building itself. And as we want to step forward to reconstruct these buildings in many years, the owner, rather than trying to maintain them and keep track of them safe to the public, has asked that they would like to tear them down. That's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Board have any questions? Ron?
Yeah, one thing, the nice write-up, by the way. Plenty of hell can't get into it. Anyway, at the end of the things from HPC here, it asked if you could possibly, let's see, consider salvaging sound wood framing materials, including any heavy timbers for a possible sale or reuse, thus avoiding landfill disposal. They asked it, so I'm asking it. So.
Right. I am, as you probably know, or some of you probably know, I'm a member of the Historic Preservation Commission. I, of course, recused myself from this particular decision, and I'm not here representing the commission in any way. I'm aware of the request, and if there were any heavy timbers, I would also recommend that they be saved. It is the barn, which is the only building that would be timber framed. As I said, it was built in approximately 1930, well past when most timber frame barns were being built. So this is a balloon frame barn. There may be some interesting stick lumber in there. In terms of diverting from the landfill, we can certainly make that request of the owners, but I don't believe there is any mandate per se under which we can hold them to that. So I appreciate your asking, but I'm not sure that there's really anything worthy of being saved. And as you saw in the report, I was actually unable to get into the house.
Yeah, I read that.
None of the entrances were accessible.
Crawl space.
But I don't think there's anything in the house that can be saved either.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone from the audience?
Just have a question, but now that it's working, I might as well use it. That's the barn, interior of the barn. I know from your distance you can't see, but the lower left-hand photograph does show the framing of the barn. That's the house, and I don't have any interior photos of the house. And that's the little garage, those are the three buildings.
Anyone from the audience?
Any questions from the audience?
Yes, Barry?
I'll make a motion
Yes.
to waive the second hearing
Yes.
and to approve the application as presented this evening.
Okay. Charles?
I'll second that.
Second. Any discussion from the board? All in favor? Done.
The second hearing on the agenda this evening is Northeastern Baptist College Inc., Common Avenue. They are seeking approval for a planned residential development consisting of 9 duplexes. Looks like the same folks presenting this evening as the first hearing.
Hi, my name is Jason Goldman. I'm with MSK Engineering and deal with Jeff Wilson from Wilson Architecture, presenting to Northeast Baptist College, who is seeking a planned residential development on a 6.1-acre parcel on Convent Avenue, which is located in the Village Residential District. We are proposing the project will include 19 duplex buildings for a total of 9 residential buildings with a total of 18 residential units, each 2 bedrooms each. They will be served by a parking area that will be screened and located on the northern portion of the parcel. There will be a sidewalk constructed along Convent Avenue, as well as street trees and landscaping screening around the parking areas in accordance with the land use development regulations. The parcel is going to be provided by a new water and sewer connection, water from Convent Avenue, sewer from an existing main that travels along the eastern portion of the parcel. And that is it. I will leave it, I'll leave some general descriptions from Jeff while he describes the architecture of the unit, and hopefully we'll have the renderings up, and then we can take some questions from the board.
So, as you can see from you've seen the plan before, or you can see from the glimpse that you had for the projector cutout, this is a pedestrian site. So the site is served by pedestrian walks. The parking is all to the north of the 9 houses, so the houses themselves don't front any parking areas or streets. Except, of course, the 2 front buildings, which do address the street in a similar setback to the other houses along Convent Avenue. those two houses have porches that address the street. All the rest of the houses have porches that address the interior space of the site. There are 4 different layouts of buildings within the site, so that it's not 9 identical buildings. In fact, there are 4 different layouts and then different configurations and orientations and different colors proposed for those buildings. Each of the buildings, however, has 2 residential units, and the units range from about just under 1,000 square feet per unit. So the buildings are just under 2,000 square feet total. Of those 9 buildings, 8 of them are 2-story units, side by side, and 1 is a handicap accessible first floor unit with another flat above it. The architecture I would consider cottage style. It's going to have glass siding, familiar materials that we have around Bennington. The roofs are going to be architectural shingles. The windows are going to be a wood fiberglass window, often used for historic buildings as well. The construction period, once permitting is completed, they would like to begin construction this fall or in the summer, depending on exactly when it's obviously pushed back many months in the permitting due to the pandemic. But they would like to start construction on the site itself this summer. That would include all the infrastructure, all the heavy earth-moving work, as well as the development of all the interior paths, the sidewalk along Convent Avenue, the sewer connections, the water connection, et cetera, the installation of the propane tanks, which are here, and the foundations of the buildings. So all the heavy work will be done in one construction period this fall. They don't believe they're going to have a chance to build any of the buildings this fall simply because we've gotten so late in the construction season. They intend to build buildings 2 or 3 a year, starting with the 2 that front Convent Avenue, most likely next to this building, which is the one with handicap accessible apartment, and then the exact order of the others has not been determined. But that overall would take up to, we're saying, 4 years of construction. And that construction will be done, obviously, during the construction season, primarily in the summers. I think that completes my description of the site, and we'd be happy to, I guess you should, Dan, you could say that you should address the board, and we'd be happy to address.
Okay, so the board will ask questions first, and then they'll ask for questions from everyone. You'll all have an opportunity to express your concerns and ask questions. But we'll just take it in order that way.
The board, have any questions? Okay, Barry?
You chose to go above ground with the utility lines, is that correct?
No, all the utility lines we're proposing are underground. There is an overhead utility line through here now that will remain.
Okay.
That's a GMP service main.
Thank you.
Charles?
Can you go into detail about the drainage and what you're doing for drainage issues?
I'll let Jason take that.
So, because of the compact nature of the site, this project's actually only going to have, for its relative density, has a little less than a half acre of impervious acreage, which sites like this where we've done half the units have had over an acre of impervious. So this
Jason, could you?
Sorry. Thank you, Dan. This site has approximately a half acre of impervious area. Normally, residential developments of this kind have over an acre of development for a similar number of units involved. But the parcel will drain from Convent Avenue is actually the high point of the entire parcel, and the Williamsack River is the low point to the east of the parcel, and the property will drain in that direction. So it will drain by sheet flow and up around there. So the runoff from the parcel is going to be entirely contained within the parcel itself.
Ron?
Jason, probably not necessary, but have you checked to see, is there any rock on it there where we need blasting or any such thing as that?
I can answer that question.
Okay.
We have had geotechnical investigations on the site, and there's no ledge found. I mean, you never know for sure.
No, I don't think
But
so.
I can't remember if we had 5 or 7, actually probably more than that, borings done.
Good enough.
And turned up nothing.
Have to ask.
Yeah.
One more thing. How are you going to access the heavy equipment onto the property? Where are they going to come from?
So you mean as far as for construction?
Yeah, you can't cross the brook.
Oh, the parcel will be accessed by Common Avenue. My expectation would be that the majority of those vehicles will travel north from Main Street.
Well, there's a stream right along there, of course.
No,
No, there's no
there's
stream.
on that
So Common Avenue is to the west, and that the development area is there again a little. The impact area is a little less than an acre of impact, with a half acre of impervious. That whole area is accessible from Common Avenue.
I thought there was a stream. I didn't see it on there, but I thought there was a stream.
There is not a stream.
No. Okay, thank you.
There's a stream on the other side of Common Avenue. That's to the west.
Okay.
Bill? Yeah, Jason, you going to include a grading plan of the,
We are. Thank you very much for asking.
Yeah. I hate that.
I did notice that that was not supplied in the submission, so I will provide it in a follow-up.
okay, can we have one for the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, currently, there's a lot of screening between convent and the open portion of the lot. Is there any reason not to maintain that, kind of push the development area back a bit?
Well, so our intent was to develop a streetscape, one, and basically, so we're providing a sidewalk along here, and then we're going to be constructing trees. We did look at the material that was there, and there's really not there aren't a lot of specimen trees inside screening right now. It's a lot of brush.
Sure.
And so, one of the initial, and a lot of that screening too is along the south, right? There's more land that travels this way that we're not even touching.
The sidewalk will run from convent to the end of the development?
Yeah, from the developed area to here.
I'm sorry, from
Yeah.
Anthony Drive?
So, from the parcel to the south of Anthony Drive and then to Common Avenue. So we're going to provide some pedestrian access along Common Avenue right now.
Lighting. Did I miss the description of your fixtures?
I believe it was submitted with your package.
The metrics are here, but I didn't see a description of the fixtures, especially the ones that are located on the buildings.
So you're looking at that sheet? I'm sorry if they weren't submitted. We will submit them as follow-up. But most of the ones on the building that are going to be eliminating the space are...
I was just concerned about the ones that were on the buildings. It looks like parking area is sufficient. But on the buildings, are they going to be cut-off fixtures? Or is there a chance that those are going to blare right in somebody's bedroom window?
No, they're 100% cut-off fixtures. Most of the ones that you see on the buildings are actually on porch ceilings, so that they're screened by the porch construction itself. There are a small number of building mounted fixtures as well. And I will point out that there's been questions about the photometrics. We've looked at options for perhaps reducing some of the bright spots, which we will submit also for the next hearing.
Charles?
Can you explain what the screenage is going to be for the property up against the Anthony Drive properties?
We're not touching any of the plant. I think that's fair.
Are you going to put
I won't be sure.
Are you going to put a fence up against where the parking lot is, or?
So the parking lot will be constructed, the edge of the parking lot will be 10 feet off of the property line. There is an area, we have not, well, the short answer is we have not proposed, so we would be happy to answer. We have not proposed a fence along the northern portion of the parcel, but we would be happy to answer.
Anyone else? Jason? On all of your drawings of the building heights, you have to put these roof slope. You don't have that on any of them.
Okay. You should tell me that, and I apologize, not Jason.
Any other from
And
the
I believe
board?
they're all 7/12 years.
Anyone from the audience have a question?
Well, my question was the parking lot there.
Ma'am, excuse me, I'm sorry, but just because we're taking minutes, if you could just give us your name and tell us where you live so that
Denise.
minutes take care.
Denise Lloyd at 1 Anthony Drive. My property was the parking lot.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have to do that for the minutes.
Okay, so I guess my question is where the parking lot is proposed is where I'm assuming it's going to be underneath the tension wires, or is it going to be further south than the high tension wires?
It's actually a little further north than the high tension wires, but as soon as this comes back, I would be happy to point it out to you.
Because my property is like right there. That means
Right, there's a right.
that means that the parking lot may be right up against my fence.
I don't know what your fence is. The parking lot is how many feet, do you know, Jason, from the edge of the property line?
It's 10 feet.
So it's 10 feet off the property line. So if your fence is on the property line, then you're 10 feet beyond that.
Well, I guess I will start with, we got the letter notice about the hearing, and a group of 8 of us in the neighborhood got together and had a meeting and to discuss what we felt the impact would be on our neighborhood. And we think this development would result in an 85% increase in the number of dwellings in Common Avenue, more than double the number of cars on the street, because there's a 26 parking spaces in the plan, with possibly 18 adults that could be 36 cars. We believe the project would negatively affect the quality of life in our neighborhood and the value of our homes. We sent this petition out to people on Convent Avenue and had some on Anthony Drive, which I don't know who I submit the petitions to. But we felt the increased density of the dwelling units increased the traffic on the street. And because we don't have sidewalks, and your sidewalk's only going to be in front of the property building, but we walk, run, push carriages, bike, and stroll on Convent Avenue in our neighborhood a lot. And we feel that this increased traffic will impact our leisure activities. The temporary population, it's dormitory type, so they don't really have a commitment to the town or the neighborhood. It's not like the real permanent residents. And the negative impact on wildlife in those wetlands in that property, both during construction and after the loss of the ecosystem for the animals and plants. We have deer, we have rabbit, we have all kinds of things growing there. And also the light pollution from the vast, I don't know how the parking lot lights, but that's going to be terrible light pollution. It's right against the property. And the paving of the parking area in the buildings is going to increase an already, it's going to exacerbate an already water issue that we already had in Clarksville. It was a swamp originally, and all of us had wet properties, problems with water coming in the basements. I can give you pictures of when it's rained, which is the whole long back, the property line we were going to build. Water pools there in my garden. And if I'm in a parking lot, 36, whatever, that runoff just went me more. Also, in this estimated desirability of learning online, we just feel that eventually these may soon be unoccupied buildings, an apartment complex up for rent. And we feel because it's an tax exempt status, and because they're transitory nature of the residents, that it's really no value to the town for this development, and no value to our neighborhood. And there's so many vacant buildings in town that we feel might be better suited for this use. So we have 37 people to sign, more people than our home said we would. So that's where the petitions go.
Give that to Dan. did, thank you very much. Does that complete your comments for just for now? It doesn't mean you can't speak later, but.
Okay, yes, and,
So, Jason and Jeff, are you taking notes so you can respond to these when they finish up?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll do it that way then.
Good evening. My name is Christine Lange. I live at 3 Anthony Drive. My family has been there since 1955. They were part of the first street off of Common Avenue to put a little development there and with Greenberg's. I don't think that this is the right time to say it, but I need to get it out there. Our cellars are wet. And it's damp on a good day. I shudder to think what's going to happen to my backyard and my cellar with a parking lot. Never mind the lights shining in to my bedroom. I'll just leave it there with that. I'm just going to read this to the regards to.
Can you address the board? Can you address the board? We're the ones going to make the decision, not them.
I apologize. I'm sorry. This is my first meeting, so you have to give me some.
Fine.
The Bennington Town Plan of 2015, Chapter 3, Land Use 23 Village Residential Districts. The village residential districts consist of areas of existing and planned compact residential development located outside the core commercial and business zones, but within the urban growth area. The purpose of this district is to provide attractive neighborhoods of relatively concentrated residential development in 1- and 2-family dwellings with high owner occupancy rates, supported by municipal water and sewer service. The emphasis in this area is to maintain and enhance the appealing residential character of the neighborhood. Uses in the village residential districts are restricted to including single family. Historic structures may be converted to lodging establishments subject to specific design and use limitations. Water and sewer service should be provided to all areas within these districts, allowing for minimum lot areas of 8,000 square feet. Front yard treatments, building dimensions, and orientation, pedestrian facilities, and vehicular access shall be consistent with the compact residential character of these neighborhoods. The town should support provision of neighborhood parks and pedestrian linkages between neighborhoods to further enhance the attractiveness of these areas. Another question I have is, where are the children going to play? Are they going to put, if this passes, are they going to put up a noise and a light barrier to our property? Just some questions. I guess we're concerned about the neighborhood. We're concerned about the neighborhood. People who've obviously been here for a while, and it is a neighborhood. Kids grow up there, one house, neighbors. We're looking ahead. If this doesn't work out, the town's left with, they look beautiful. They look beautiful, but is it going to be in and out, transient rental people? They're not going to love the land, their house, their neighborhood, like we all do. Just some questions to think about. And I know this is not the time, but I cannot hammer home enough. It is wet. It is wet there. And a parking lot, it's going to sink. We'll have to do drainage. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And one other question is, did you say that the drainage from the runoff from the homes and lots or whatever you're doing is going to be shunted to the river? Because that river already swells with normal, when we get heavy rains, but when we have like hurricanes and floods and stuff like that, I mean, if you take away that much water and start flushing into the river, they're going to have increased flooding downstream, because that means that floods terrible all the way down. So, I mean, I don't know where it can shun the water. It's not absorbed. It's so wet. I mean, I've lived there 37 years. It's wet.
Yes.
This is a dry year.
Yes.
Joe Sweetman, and is this property going to be tax exempt?
I can't answer that. I can certainly find out, but that's, the board can't consider that as irrelevant to their consideration. You can certainly get that question answered, but the board can't consider that as a criteria for whether or not they approve this project.
What was the question, please?
Whether or not it would be tax exempt. Is it tax exempt?
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other, yes?
Tricia Walter.
Go close to the microphone, sorry. There's an open space up here if you don't mind. So,
Okay. Tricia Kowalczyk, 154 Common Avenue. And I just want to make a comment here for the quality of life. So I lived at 125 Common Avenue, which is right next to this property that they're talking about. And I was there for 3 years. And yes, it is wet all the time. It doesn't drain back, it sits there and it cools. But what I'd like to address is the quality of life on that street. I have 2 young children, and we hear wildlife next door, foxes and deer and bats and coyotes, whatever, you name it, it's there. It's a street where people walk, people bike, up and down all day long. And Bennington doesn't have too many of these streets within the town that support that kind of life. And I just recently bought a house on Convent, so I am a Convent resident for a good long time now. And I want to preserve that, and I know you all do too. And I just think we need to think really hard before we accept this, because it's going to change that part of town quite a bit. And there are so many empty buildings in Bennington, so many, that, and I know there's a lot of rules and regulations that go with all this, but I just think that we're moving too fast to destroy a wilderness property that is beneficial to the residents there and the town before looking into some other place like Southern Vermont College. What about the school that's right down, how many empty schools too? Before we jump to dig up more land for more buildings that I guess may be vacant or half full in our lifetimes, in 10 years, in 5 years, in their time that they're there. So just wanted to express my concern. Thank you.
Yes.
My name is John LaCanks. I live at 573 Balloonsack Road. My mother-in-law lives at 2 Sharon Drive. I have a question. How does the density of this development compare to that of the surrounding properties? From what I see on the presentation, it looks like the setback between buildings is as minimal as you can get to squeeze those buildings in. That strikes me as being completely out of character with the rest of the residential neighborhood. Who or what will be responsible for upkeep of this property? Since this is, by definition, student housing and thus transitory, the students have no stake in maintaining these properties. So, who is going to take care of it? And finally, at what point are we willing to turn our heads to the character of the neighborhoods that we have long known and loved, and say, you know what, we've got this rule that these buildings need to be majority owner occupied, but the rule doesn't really need to stand because we've got this opportunity for other development. We either have our zoning rules and live by them, or we say that zoning rules are far too flexible to actually be codified. So those are my questions. I hope that there are answers.
Anyone else?
Mary
Go
McGinnis.
ahead.
I'm at 140 Condon Avenue. So 18 units, 2 bedrooms, could be 36, if I have this right, adults who drive. We're going to have cars going up and down the street. I believe there's parking for 26? 28. What happens to the rest? If just that, now I don't know if there could be more adults living in there, and you could up it to 72 cars. Number one, where are they going to park? And number two, what does that do to the traffic on the street?
Thank you.
Mike Sanders, 147 Common Avenue. I have a question. I heard you say you had less than 1 acre of impervious.
Correct.
That's the buildings, the driveways?
All of it. Wow.
Well, I guess my concern is the traffic. The increase in traffic. I mean, we are kind of the way you get to the country club too, so it's not just the neighborhood traffic. We get all the traffic that's going to Mount Anthony all the time. So it would seem to me that the increase in traffic is probably my biggest concern. You know, I think the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. You don't have sidewalks. You are in a residential neighborhood, kids on bikes, things like that. I think you got a dangerous situation when you put that many more cars on that road, because they're going to go down all the way to Bank Street if they're going to go to Walmart, to all those. So, I mean, you're really increasing the traffic on a residential neighborhood, because you direct all the traffic off of Route 9 down Common Avenue to go to Mount Anthony Country Club as it is. So, I think that's a little danger. And I think that you've got to really look at a traffic study to figure out, can we handle that many more? The road's pretty good shape right now, but it was just fixed up. Prior to 2 years ago, it was full of potholes. And it's going to be that way again, mostly because it's wet in that area. So I think you've got an issue with traffic that's not going to help the road any. But I think you've got a dangerous situation with that many young people in cars in a residential neighborhood. So I think you've got to really take a serious look at that.
Anyone else? Back, in the back.
I live right there.
No, hold it. Hold it. Somebody in the back. You've always
My name is Kim Lakakis. I live on the Loomsack Road, and my mother lives on the corner of Sharon Drive and Convent. And I have expected to come here tonight to hear the owners of the property ask for a zoning variance in order to build this. And I arrived to see that evidently they are not even asking for a variance in order to build a development that seems to me to be antithetical to a village residential zoning. So my question is for the board. Have you all basically, is there an agreement among you, or has this even occurred, that this is a conforming development to village residential? Because it seems to me that high owner occupancy means probably not a student dorm. So does a student dorm qualify in Bennington's zoning laws as residential, as far as the zoning board is concerned?
So I can answer that for it.
Okay.
Since it's a board question. This is not the zoning board, it's a development review board.
I'm sorry.
Just to clarify.
I thought they were going to ask for a variance tonight.
A variance is not necessary, but this board has not made any decisions regarding whether or not this application complies with the requirements. That's why we're here.
Okay,
So
I understand.
that decision will not be made until after the second hearing and they issue their written finding.
Okay,
So
so
that's why we're here
okay,
to hear what your concerns are, hear what the applicant's concerns are. I will say one thing, just so folks can get this clear, because I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. This board cannot consider whether or not those properties are going to be owned or rented. That is unconstitutional. It's not allowed. Although we would like to promote that, this board can't reject a housing project because it's a rental
Okay.
project.
Can I take 1 minute away from the board's business and ask you, as the head zoning guy in town, have these people approached you for a variance?
No, there is no variance necessary. They do need to comply with the requirements, and that's what the board is.
Can I ask why? Because village residential seems to me to be a high owner occupancy thing, without a parking lot and without all-night lighting, 10 feet from the property line of residences that have been there for a long time.
All of that will be considered by the board except for the home ownership issue, which is unconstitutional for them to consider.
Okay, so as far as the zoning board is concerned, this is a conforming development.
They have not made that decision yet.
As far as the zoning board is concerned,
There is
they don't need a variance, that's what you just said.
It is my opinion as a zoning administrator that they don't need a variance. If this board determines that they need a variance, they'll reject the application.
Could I just ask why the zoning board does not think that this would require a variance
There is no
from
zoning
village
board.
residential?
There is no zoning board. This is the permitting board. They have not made that determination yet.
Okay. Can I just say that I feel that this is a non-conforming development. I think this is completely antithetical to a village residential zoning. I mean, these people have been here for a long time. I think since in the last 30 years, I think there's probably a total of 6 houses on Anthony that have even changed hands in an arm's length transaction. I mean, this is a very stable, long-going neighborhood, and to have a parking lot with it all night long, you're talking about 18 units, 2 bedrooms. If they're kids, you can have 2 kids to a bedroom, and you're not talking about 36 kids, you're talking about 72 kids. So, I mean, I just want to say that I think this will really, really alter the neighborhood, and I don't understand with all of the properties available in Bennington, even in a mixed-use zoning, in a mixed-use district or something, to take a neighborhood like this and do this, that does not seem to be fair to people who live there. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
My name is Nathan Stanley. I live at 141 Common Avenue. I just want to say that I bought a house in this neighborhood because it's a quiet neighborhood. This is a place where I prospected myself to be able to raise a family and be able to have them learn in the environment, and with the animals and all the trees and everything else that are in this neighborhood, that I sit on my back deck and I've found 57 different kinds of birds that fly throughout our tree line. I've seen bobcats, deer, fox, everything that my daughter grows. This is something that I'm going to be able to teach her. Anything like that changes, and that's just animals and trees. That's not the water table, that's not everything else. Everything that else changes is going to impact my daughter's education outside of school. And that's not something that I'm willing to just sit by and let happen. I just want everybody to kind of keep that in mind, that it's not just the current residents or residents that may move in a few years. This is also residents like me who plan on building my life here. And I plan on being here for a long time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. What's the board's pleasure?
Well, we want to let Jason and Jeff respond to the questions, unless the board has additional questions.
I just have a comment or a question. What portion of the total property, and I understand the total property is just over 6 acres, is that correct?
It's just shy, yeah. Just a little.
And approximately what, 1 acre is the planned construction?
It's somewhere around 1 acre of disturbance, and it's less than a half acre of impervious area inside that.
I just wanted everybody to realize it's only 1/6 of the total acreage that's owned.
That's an awful lot of business to be putting on 1 acre.
So we're going to, let's not, if you have something to say, please raise your hand and be recognized. We're not going to just do it back and forth. But if you do have some additional questions, I'm happy to take it, but please be recognized by the chairperson.
Yes.
I have a question. In the event that this goes through, are you going to put up a sound and light barrier for 135 Anthony Drive? That is right there.
Sure.
I would be able to spit to the parking lot.
There have not been any proposed fencing proposed along the northern border of this property.
Is that something you would take into consideration?
Well, I don't know what a sound and light barrier looks like.
So Jason, ma'am, we're not going to have a back and forth. If you have questions, address the board, and then we're going to ask them to answer your questions. And if they haven't, you can get up after they've tried to answer.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay. We just want to keep things in order. So.
Yes.
Is this built on a slab, or is there
So Jeff, can we just wait till everybody finishes their questions so that you can answer? So I keep it orderly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So just make sure you guys address that in your response. Do you have any other questions?
Will there be cellars or are these buildings on slabs?
And everybody will have a chance to ask follow-up questions, so we just want to get through this first round. So Jason and Jeff, can you guys attempt to address some of those concerns, and please project, because I am having trouble hearing you.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble getting through this mask. I apologize. What I'm hearing, questions about density. I'm hearing questions about traffic. I'm hearing questions about lighting. We had a quote from the town plan. We have concerns about runoff. And I'm just trying to consolidate some of this. And then there was a question about cellars. And there was a question about tax exemption status, but I don't know that. So, with respect to density, this parcel is located in the village residential, and this, I think the town plan reference that was brought up identified this is in urban growth district, which allows for 1- and 2-family wells, and that they are being connected to municipal water and sewer. And that the allowable density based on 3.10 for village residential is 1 unit per 10,000 square feet, for which the land use and development regulations for this parcel would allow 26 units. Now, I acknowledge the prevalence of wetlands on the parcel, but it's important to note that the bylaws themselves do not specifically prohibit the accounting of that land when you're making a density calculation. So this parcel, or this proposal, is less dense than what is allowed for this area, purely from a land density calculation, that the planned residential development that we've proposed here is in the spirit of that article, which is to promote creative and compact design, which allows for maximizing the use of residential land inside the urban growth district. This is a law, and it will remain so. With respect to traffic, it was true that it's noted that Convent Avenue is a through street, and the 2019 average annual daily traffic trip generation, where that the Agency of Transportation publishes, notes that that Convent Avenue receives 326 average vehicle trips per day, for which a parcel, a development of this kind may contribute approximately 30 vehicle trips in addition during peak hour, AM and PM. So, with respect to drainage, what I have noted is that this parcel is actually lower in elevation than any of the other dwellings in the vicinity. It's lower than Convent Avenue. It's lower than the dwellings on Anthony Drive. And the parking lot is actually 10 feet lower than Convent Avenue. So visibly, it's 10 feet below. And it's, we're actually prohibited from filling in that area because of the high tension water with an agreement from GMP for access to that, for the use of the easement area that they have currently. So all of the drainage will be contained within and discharged away from any dwellings that are located. I am trying, Will there be cellars shown?
The construction is all slab on grade, there are no cellars proposed. And I guess I can also respond to the light issue. I know somebody said there would be lights all night. There's no commitment by the owner to lighting this all night. I can certainly speak to them about that concern. We are proposing lights that are compliant with the town requirements for the light ratios and the brightness that's required within this district or required within the town. And all the fixtures are 100% full cutoff fixtures. So I think the concern about lights beyond the sight line, I don't think that would come, it would actually lighten your homes. Obviously, if you have a view through the trees, you would see a lighted area where there's now not a lighted area. Much of the lighting that we propose is actually porch lights. And those porch lights spill, just like any porch lights spill, a little ways in front of the house. And we're actually relying on that. And those will be controlled along with the small number of pole-mounted lights to light the site. I do want to say that the owners are not here tonight because we requested that they not be, because we were trying to reduce the number of people who are present at the hearing. If it is the request of the board, we certainly would invite them to come to the second hearing to address any issues that remain in that hearing. They were anxious to be here, and they certainly are anxious to hear from us after about what was discussed. Finally, there was a question about a sound barrier. There's no sound barrier proposed. I don't think, short of a large concrete wall or some other very heavy wall, we can provide anything like that. And I think that aesthetically that would be something that we might not like. But as Jason said, the parking lot, which is perhaps the sound generator that people are concerned about, is about 10 feet lower than the houses that are to its north. And the parking lot's about close to 150 feet, I believe, back from Convent Avenue.
Correct, that's 10 feet lower.
I'm sorry, thank you. No, it's 10 feet lower from Convent Avenue. I apologize. I apologize, you're right. Although, as you said, it is lower than the houses to its north. Jason, I can't speak to that. That drawing's up, but the elevation of the parking lot relative to the houses, you did say it's low. Is that correct?
It is low.
Yes. So I apologize. I misspoke when I said 10 feet. That was to Convent Avenue. I don't know if there were any other building-related issues that came up specifically. Oh, I do have one other that I'm sure the owners would want me to share. These are intended for students, graduate students, and faculty. So they do anticipate that some, or many, knowing from year to year, some of these units will be occupied by families, and others will be occupied by students, undergraduate students.
Okay.
Will I ask him?
Yes.
In response to your, it's 10 feet from Convent, yes, the whole property is downhill towards Bennington Avenue, but my house being Anthony Drive, it's facing Anthony Drive, my property line goes back, but my property line goes with the slope. So actually, my property line rather is the same as the field because it all goes down together from Convent. So it's not like it's going to be down here and I'm up here. We're level.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't speak.
Yeah,
I don't have the
This is
elevation.
my property goes down like that. Yeah.
As I said, don't have the elevations of the houses on the plan, which I can see if you can as well, but I can see the elevation of the property. So.
Hello. Just give your name, please.
My name is Heather Robb, and I live at 139 Convent.
Can you address us, please?
Oh, you want to address the board?
Okay, I'm sorry. It's confusing.
Can't hear you.
It's confusing. Okay. A question was asked and put forth regarding the overflow parking. So if there are more cars than there are spaces, where are those cars going to park? On Convent? Is there going to be auxiliary parking putting someplace else, you may have more cars than you have spots for, depending on how many people are actually living there that are two-car families.
So I apologize, I did not address, I didn't hear the question, so I apologize for that. I do not believe that this parking lot will be fully utilized. However, for lots of reasons. One, this is, as you guys have all mentioned, it's a great place to bike and walk. Condon Avenue and all of Clark's Woods has ready access to the Ninja Trail, the future Ninja Trail, as well as the Ocean Drive bike path that's being reconstructed right now, which goes in front of the Northeastern Baptist College. And that I expect that those municipal facilities will be readily accessed by future residents. That said, I don't see any reason why the current owners would object to asserting that they will manage their site such that only off-site parking will be utilized. So if there is more parking, then that would be dealt with.
Some people, excuse me, people who have company, if everyone is home and you have company over, there are the extra cars, so they would have to use off-site parking, is what they're saying.
That's right. Condon Avenue is a very narrow street, so there's not a lot of availability for off-site parking. So it would make sense that parks are Yes.
And I would consider that with online learning becoming so popular and so necessary, that this complex could, in a few years, be just another apartment complex, and owners won't care about the cars and where they are.
Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
I'm still wondering how the density of these units actually compares to the rest of the neighborhood, and how we get from 10,000 square feet per unit as quoted in the zoning laws to fitting 9 units that close together. Was it clearly much less than 1,000 feet per unit or 10,000 feet per unit? How do these things square?
Article 8 and Article 9 of the Land Use Development Regulations speak to that.
And they say?
And they say that density, that you use the density of the entire parcel to define how many units you can place on it with in a more dense fashion where in certain areas and less density in others.
And this compares to the local density how?
The bylaws are what allow us to define how we do future development.
I just want to respond because there's a question about how the regulations apply. This is a planned residential development. It's not a traditional subdivision. And in planned residential developments, the regulations actually encourage what's been traditionally called cluster development. So there's less infrastructure used, and we preserve contiguous open land so that we can have the resources protected, like these big wetland complexes, et cetera. If we require them to spread them out throughout the entire site, you would not have these contiguous large swaths of open land, which are much more conducive to wildlife than splitting it up into several different little parcels. So our regulations actually encourage cluster development. Whether this particular cluster development meets the requirements, that's going to be up to these folks. But there's nothing incongruous with the regulations with proposing a cluster or compact development.
Next.
So when you have a neighborhood, the whole Park Woods, the whole neighborhood in Condon Avenue down is individual, single resident homes. And it seems, it does say that they would encourage single family dwellings. And if they wanted to put a single family, I even would worry how much that runoff would be, because we have, when developments happen above Condon Avenue, the water that's come down and hit us, it's exacerbated. So anything that just takes up space where water will be absorbed in an already wet land, it's got to go someplace. And even if it's shunted underground, water will go where it wants. And it seems to have a propensity to hit people's basements in our neighborhood.
Anyone else? Yes, Charles?
I can make this motion to go into a closed session.
Not going to make it, we need a second hearing anyway. Was there a need for a closed session?
I didn't hear what you
Sorry.
To go into a closed session.
So go into deliberative session.
Yeah.
Okay. And Dan, what did you, I'm sorry, we didn't hear you down here.
We're going to have a second hearing in any event.
Right. So what Charlie is asking is that he's asking the board to go into closed deliberative session, which is our practice, to come up with any questions, concerns, et cetera, that we would ask the applicant to come back with us on this for the second hearing. There will be a second hearing, at least in one more hearing. There could be more if the questions are not answered to the board's satisfaction. So there will be a second hearing in 2 weeks. This seemed to work out okay, so it'll probably be the same sort of situation. Unfortunately, it's not as comfortable as we hoped it would be, but we have to do with what we have. So what the board will likely do if this motion passes, they'll go into deliberative session, they'll discuss what they've heard tonight, they'll come up with a written list of questions, concerns, et cetera, that they'll ask the applicant to submit to the board for the next hearing. And that information will be available to you folks too if you would like to see it. Just let me know, and I will probably get it about a week before the next hearing, and I'm happy to email that to you folks or whatever. So just contact the town office and we can get that information to you. Anything that they give us in addition to what they've already submitted, that will be available about a week ahead of the meeting.
Second the motion.
Excuse me?
I'll second the motion.
There we go.
Before we forget.
Did you get a second?
You got a
Get
second,
to
Ron?
Charlie's motion?
Second?
I'll second it.
Ron just
Ron already
Oh,
seconded.
you already seconded it? Okay.
All in favor of the motion?
Okay. Now we need a, unless there's any other business, we would need a motion to adjourn the meeting, and we'll follow up with our deliberative session.
So moved.
Charles? Thank you. All in favor of adjourning? Thank you, folks.
So folks, we'll be back here in 2 weeks, same time, same place, and the board will either make a final decision or ask for more information after that. So at least one more hearing